Welcome to FailCraft, the podcast where we dive into the messy, real side of success and explore how setbacks become the stepping stones to growth and clarity. I'm your host, Ezekiel Iferia, and today's guest is Ari Rastegar. Forbes call him the Oracle of Austin for his uncanny ability to predict market trends. But before he was managing a multi-billion-dollar real estate portfolio, he was delivering pizzas and flipping burgers. He started his first venture with a $3,500 loan while in law school. He didn't build his empire by playing it safe. He built it by leveraging every mistake he ever made. He is the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, The Gift of Failure, and he's here to talk about why bankability is about character, not cash, why health is the ultimate hedge, and how to turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. So, Ari, I am super excited and honored to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, buddy.
A pleasure to have you here, and I have been looking forward to the conversation. So, let's get things started. You wrote a best-selling book called The Gift of Failure. In the private equity world, people usually hide their losses in the footnotes. You put yours on the book cover. So I'd like to know, is failure actually a valuable asset class in your portfolio?
Failure is the most valuable asset class in my life.
Oh,
and I think it is for every human being, certainly the ones that strive for any type of high achievement, they fail more. And I think the similarity between the highest achievers in the world and what separates them from mediocre achievers is that high achievers have a higher pain tolerance to continue to fail forward. Even, a young child, the way that they learn to walk is by standing and falling. This is human nature. We learn by failing. And at some point they changed that dialogue to make it sound like a bad thing. Maybe when we got to school, we started to get yelled at because you didn't make A's in classes, or at some point it became bad. But failure is how we learn. And after writing an entire book about it and studying the greatest achievers in the world, my definition now for failure is learning how to win, and failure being a feedback mechanism, not necessarily an end result. It could be if you give up, but if you fail and then you take the feedback from the failure and you have introspection into all of the steps that went into that failure, which is actually not a permanent destination, it's a temporary defeat. And when you have a temporary defeat, you go back into the laboratory, you look at all the things that went wrong. Some of the things went right, because normally everything doesn't go wrong. Some things went right. You were lucky enough to wake up in the morning. You took a couple breaths. Hopefully you had a meal or two. Maybe you had a loved one that you kissed on the cheek before you went out. So some things went right. So looking what went right, what things went the other way, and then from that analysis, seeing what you can learn from the feedback and getting off your ass and doing it again and doing it again and again and again until you achieve what others will call success.
okay. So, Ari, I really like that definition of failure that you just gave. That failure is learning how to win, learning how to succeed. I had someone earlier say that fail, like the word FAIL, means first attempt in learning. And when you fail again, it's further attempt in learning. So that's a really beautiful definition of failure. Let's talk about your book, The Gift of Failure. So, can you quickly give us an overview of this book? What's it about? What was your motivation behind writing the book, and who should actually go read it?
The first line of the book is, I hope you fail. I hope you fail a lot. And I truly mean that from the depth of my heart, because as I said, maybe some of the accolades that I might have achieved in my life that others might call successful, I didn't learn anything from winning. I learned everything from losing. And, there was a time, as you mentioned before, that I was flipping burgers and delivering pizza to get through two community colleges before college, before law school. And one of the times that I worked in this place called Johnny Rockets, it's a 1950s kind of style burger place. And it was in a mall in Dallas, Texas, in a very, very wealthy mall, like the richest neighborhood maybe in Texas. The Gucci store, the Prada store, all these big, are there. So rich people would come to and I was kind of the poorest kid in the richest neighborhood. My dad raised me as a single dad, was an Iranian immigrant. And, that comes with a lot of insecurity. You don't know if you're good enough. You feel bad about yourself. I had a real bad speech impediment. I'm just an average guy. Like I'm not, super talented in any given way. Um, and as I saw these people come in and out, and I always was a big reader. I'd always read books. I loved books. I was an English major in literature, English literature major in undergrad. So I was always reading, and I had this book with me called Think and Grow Rich that my father
Yeah.
gave me when I was 13 years old. And I kept it in my back pocket, and during my breaks, I would read it and I would think about it. And I would think about, dream in my mind of what it would be like to maybe be like these rich people. And I promised myself there one day that someone came in, was very, very rude. And, I could tell by the purse that she had and the people they were with, clearly they were wealthy or they seemed to be wealthy. But there's levels to these things, as I know now, and something happened. I don't remember exactly the details, but it was something that I said to myself, if I ever make it out of this burger shop and I ever am on the other side of this table where I'm the customer, I will do something to tell the truth of what it took to get out of there. And when I sat down to work on this book, I'm a father of three, I have three beautiful children, I'm a single dad. I've built a business that I'm very proud of. We've helped a lot of people. Our investors are public pension plans, insurance companies. We invest all over the United States and industrial facilities, apartment complexes, single family homes, office buildings. We're about to build 3 new data centers. And I wanted to do something where I could go back and tell the truth of how this all happened. And what I was going to name the book was What I've Learned Thus Far. Because what I've learned along the way, and the only thing I've gotten very good at, I think, in a way, is failing. And the reason I accepted your podcast invitation, or one of the reasons, is that the title was called FailCraft. And craft means you have a technique, it means that you have a process, it means that there's a style to how you do something. And I like that name because failing can also be a style. There's a way to
Mm.
fail well. In martial arts, I was a martial artist. I was a wrestler and a martial artist most of my life. Not very good, by the way. But if you look at, like, in wrestling, when you do a throw and someone throws you, there's a way to fall well. There's a way to fall properly. You see it in judo or jujitsu. Someone takes a throw and they know how to roll on their shoulder and they get back up. There's also a way to
Mm.
fall and land on your head and hurt yourself. Failing with a craft, that you fail well, that you know how to hit the ground and fail, lay on the ground for a second, have introspection around the things going on you. So when you do get back up after pausing, you can go back into the race, just like someone could throw you, hit the ground, you roll, and you stand back up. It's a very similar craft and very similar process. So when I sat down to write the book, wanting to have something that I could read to my children, something I could share with them about my life, maybe something that they could listen to, because nobody really listens to their parents, not really. And kids don't do what you tell them, they do what they see, just so you know, or so I think. And I started to go through my life and certain things, and everything that I learned about health came from a time when I felt terrible. When it came to going to school, it came to a point of desperation where I didn't know what to do with my life. And my father said, you're going to have to go to school. And I learned something.
Mm.
In business, before my businesses became, um, you know, substantial. I started a business, huge entertainment company. My investor is one of the biggest real estate financiers in the world. And we did everything right. We thought we signed the biggest names for the Super Bowl. We had the halftime show, the Black Eyed Peas performing. David Guetta was our DJ, Sports Illustrated, the biggest names. And then the biggest ice storm in the history of Texas crushed the parties. I went to sleep a millionaire. I woke up broke because of all the ticket sales and the chargebacks. And so the only thing that I knew if I was going to write a book about the truth, thinking back to Johnny Rockets, thinking about something I'd want my kids to read, thinking about what I would tell people, every single lesson came with failure. Every one of them. Every single one of them. I changed because of desperation, not inspiration. I changed or learned because I was forced into a corner, so to speak. And that's
Mm,
how the book is basically written. It's an autobiographical piece starting through various things. And every time I learn something, or I should say, unlearn something, unlearn, because unlearning and forgetting is just as important as learning, especially in a world where we're drowning in knowledge, but we're starved for wisdom. Not doing things is probably more important than doing more things, if you know what I mean. All of them
mm.
came with some sort of failure. And I realized in that moment that it's the human condition to fail forward if you're going to continue to progress. And if you want to achieve high things in anything, in sports and life and building a family, building your physique, building your business, building your podcast, you better get to failing. You better get to screwing it up. You better get out there and have motion and put yourself in the game, get yourself in the arena, because that's where the lessons really, really come. And this was the premise of the entire book, is to change that sentiment around what we call failure being a bad thing and reframe it to being the only way that we can actually learn.
Oh, wow, wow. Ari, that was an amazing response. Indeed, we do learn more from our failures than we could ever have learned from, when success came easy. So, I am particularly curious about the title of your book, The Gift of Failure. Usually a gift or a present is something we cherish, something someone
Yeah.
gives to us and we are happy, we thank them,
Yes.
everyone celebrates. So, but putting it side by side with failure, it kind of interests me. So, is it that you see failures as a gift, or where did it, why did it join two contradictory words like gift and failure together? Do you see failure as a gift?
I do. I do. And after a lot of pain and suffering and a lot of sitting with myself and looking back, Steve Jobs used to say, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back, which I don't entirely agree with, by the way. I think you can
Mm,
connect them forward, but it is easier to connect them looking backwards. So when I looked back on my life, as I told you, at this point, I was a father. At this point, I'd built some businesses. I'd finished some higher level education. I'd lived a little bit of life. I have a little more gray hair than I once did, which was earned, by the way. I found that even though in the moment I was too impatient and too ungrateful to realize those pain moments were the actual gifts, even though I didn't have the eyes to see them and I didn't materialize them as, like you said, a birthday party of some present someone gives you or your favorite new shoes. I realized that the gifts that the universe, that God, that infinite intelligence, whatever you want, the way is that gifts are actually come from problems.
mm,
Problems are the gifts that we grow from because problems put the stress on us. Like if you're lifting weights and you want to get big muscles, it's the weight that you move that causes the muscle to grow and become so beautiful and so shaped. It's the stress that pushes on coal that turns it into a diamond. And that moment when you was pushed and you felt like you were hurt and you were suffering and you were seeing, it was that moment that the butterfly broke out of the cocoon and could no longer be housed anymore. And I don't know about you, Ezekiel, you carry a very prophetic name. That sounds like a gift to me.
All right, Ari. So let's go back to the start of your journey. You started with a $3,500 loan while in law school. When you are operating with that little capital, every mistake feels fatal. So, did that pressure teach you discipline that billion-dollar funds often lack?
Absolutely not. I was too reckless. I was too bold. I was too arrogant. And it was a lot of money. It was all my money. And it was loans. So it wasn't a little bit of money to me. It was my whole net worth. Now I'd have to go spend a couple $1 billion to feel the same thing, or whatever. But I didn't think about it that way. I thought about it too recklessly and too bold. And I was just thinking about how to get rich. I wasn't thinking about risk. I wasn't thinking about really running the numbers. I wasn't thinking about all those things. And as a professional investor that manages people's money for a living, you have to always think about how you could lose money. You have to think about how to protect the money, protect the asset, run the numbers 100 different ways because professional investors think about what could go wrong. Amateurs think about what could go right. Amateurs think about what could be good for them. Professionals think about how they can serve others. They think about how they can be obsessed with their customers, how they can be, offer a better service. As a punk kid in law school, I just thought, how do I get rich? And how do I go do something real quick to make money as quick as I could? So I wish there was more thought that went into it. But if there anything that I could learn from that in terms of these dialogues is there is a level of boldness that needs to
Mm.
be like you have to go tell the world I'm here. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go poke the fuck out of the universe and wake it up a little bit and say, Ezekiel is here to play. I'm not messing around. So there is genius in that behavior, but we go through seasons of our life. And as certainly as young men, recklessness is the beginning, is the beginning. And then that recklessness, if you're lucky, gets tempered and tamed and refined into a level of maturity where you can still be bold and you can still have courage and bravery. But you do it by realizing you have something to lose. Because when you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose. Now I have children. Now I have investors.
Mm.
Now I have something that I have to protect. Back then, I didn't give a shit, and this is a very dangerous trait. Also, there is lessons to be learned from it as well, and some goodness. But mostly arrogance and stupidity.
Ari, fast forward to the present. You treat your health as a core investment, biohacking, meditation, etc.
Yeah.
So, do you find that most high level executives fail not because their strategy is bad, but because their biology burns out?
I think it's both. I think right now, a lot of people, we have an epidemic of colon cancer, of heart attacks, of stress, of anxiety, of depression, a pill that can wake you up, put you to sleep, like, and so I think that tells you a lot about the mental state and the physical state of a lot of people. And I think our businesses, and our life is an extension of us. And the better you feel, the better you can do, and everything takes energy that matters, whether it's exercise. You need a protein shake to have energy to exercise or do something, or energy to build a business. If you're building a big business, 99% of businesses fail in the first 2 years. The amount of work that has to go into the sheer brain power and time and energy that goes into building a business, you need energy. And I find that I am my most important asset, not just because of Ari, but because if I don't fill my cup and I don't have energy and I'm not heart centered and my mind and my thoughts aren't coherent, then I can't do good work. I can't show up with my heart. I can't show up with my brain. I won't have anything left in the tank to be a father to my children. I won't be able to serve my investors. I won't be able to give. So I build myself so that I can contribute. And I find that for me, that that starts with physical health, and then mental health, spiritual health, and the healthier people make healthier decisions as a general rule. Does that make everything perfect? Absolutely not. But it does, increase the probability that you're going to show up a little bit differently. You find a very high stress person that's extremely upset and anxious and scared and worried, and something goes wrong, they're probably going to yell at you. And I've been that guy before. And that person isn't equipped to run a multi-billion-dollar or $1 trillion enterprise, or they shouldn't be.
All right, all right. So, Ari, for picture this, there's a person in our audience who just lost their first investment or failed their first business. So,
Congratulations.
all right, indeed,
Congratulations.
they've
You're
they've
on the
been
path.
presented
You
they've been
got it out of the
presented a
way. Good for
gift.
you. Good for
Yeah,
you. Well,
yeah.
congratulations. You have now separated yourself from all the timid, weak souls that didn't
Mm,
have the courage or the bravery to even get off the fucking couch. So you are already in an elite class of somebody that has tried and put themselves out there. So you're already a success, even though you feel like a failure.
mm. All right. So, for such a person, what's the immediate mental shift they need to make so that they don't waste the lesson from this gift of failure?
You have to pause. You have to take a moment to pause. You have to sit there for a second and lay on the ground. You got kicked in the teeth. Life beat the shit out of you, and you're laying flat on your back, right?
Mm,
Stay there for a little bit. Stay on the ground for a little bit. Think. Don't get up too fast. Take a moment. Think about all the things that happened, and be fair. What happened right? What happened wrong? Not everything you did was wrong. Some was good. What was the good part? What was the bad part? Take a piece of paper, write it down. Benjamin Franklin used to take a piece of paper before he made a decision and put a line in the middle and put pros and cons and write all the good things to do it, all the reasons not to do it. Write it down. Sounds corny, but it works. Write down all the good reasons why to start this business, all the things that went wrong, all the things that could have done better, all the things you mistaked on. What did you procrastinate on? What did you not think about? What did you learn? What did you wish you know? And that process is therapeutic. But most importantly, get back up and go do it again. Because the only true failure is not to continue the process. The rest is just temporary defeat. And this is not about winning a battle. This is about winning the war. So you can lose some battles, no problem.
all right. That was a really fantastic advice. The only true failure is not continuing the process. So, I have a personal one for you. After going from flipping burgers to building skylines and writing bestsellers, what does being successful truly mean to you now?
Success for me, success and fulfillment aren't the same thing. Success is continuing to build our business, to make our investors money, to build incredible structures, to build offices that businesses can be in, to build retail centers that small businesses can be in, apartment complexes, homes, houses, to finance them well, design them well, help shape community. That's success. And turning a profit doing that, employing people to do that, building teams, that's a lot of success. And the more that we scale that exponentially, that'll be very, very successful. But at this point in my life, I'm much more concerned with living in a beautiful state, having a beautiful state of mind, having joy in my heart, having gratitude in my heart, and having a fulfilled life of meaning. And meaning for me comes from progress. Meaning
Mm,
comes from growth. Meaning comes from growing from my old self, challenging my old beliefs, putting myself in a situation to feel uncomfortable, questioning why I think about something, what triggered me, what upset me, why did it upset me. And Benjamin Franklin, again, I don't know why he's come up this much in this conversation, maybe because he failed more than anybody, by the way.
yeah,
That's why you know his name. But
yes.
he has a quote that I love so, so much. He said, be at war with your vices, be at peace with your neighbors, and every year find yourself a better man. And
Mm.
that's really it for me.
Okay, that was an amazing one. Separating between being successful and being fulfilled. And a really great quote from Benjamin Franklin there again. Lastly, Ari, for our listeners who want to go read The Gift of Failure or maybe just connect with you or invest with you. So where is the best place for them to go, sir?
Sure. You can go to rastegarcapital.com. I'm sure you'll can include it in the notes. You can find us on Instagram at Rastegar. You can Google my name if you want, Ari Rastegar, and find us on LinkedIn, on all the different platforms. You can buy my book on Amazon, The Gift of Failure, as you mentioned. You can listen to it on Spotify if you have it, or buy it on Audible, if you want to. But there's many places to see the stuff that we do. Our team works very, very hard to put out meaningful content that genuinely will help people across YouTube, across TikTok, across all these different platforms. And hopefully that it finds you in a place that can help you breathe a little bit easier, because that's the real reason we do any of this. And if you do read the book, there's an email address at the end of the book that we've received thousands of emails from across the world of people that have read it that literally put me to tears. I mean, it's unbelievable the stories people tell of their failures, their triumphs, their goals, their achievements. And so if you do read it, please send us an email. We read them. They mean a lot to us. And I hope you fail. And I hope you suffer. And I hope you endure, because that's the only way it works.
Okay, Ari, it's been a super powerful and interesting conversation with you here today. I am truly excited and honored to have you come share this really beautiful insight on failure with us here today. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
God bless you, brother. Talk to you soon.